All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 3rd, 2019 board meeting. I will now call the board meeting to order. Mr. Gaither, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Representing Educational District 1, Ms. Leslie Grant. Present. Representing Educational District 3, Ms. Michelle Olympiadis. Representing District at Large Seat 7, Ms. Candace Wood Jackson. Representing Educational District at Large Seat 8, Ms. Cynthia Briscoe Brown.
Present.
Representing Educational District at Large Seat 9 and Board Chair, Mr. Jason Estevez.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaither. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the August 5th board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved by Cynthia Briscoe Brown, seconded by Candace Wood Jackson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the September 3rd board meeting agenda?
Second.
Been properly moved by Leslie Grant, seconded by Cynthia Briscoe Brown. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Starfin, will you please bring the work session items for today?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we have two presentations that will address various aspects of our 2020 strategic plan, family engagement, family engagement, partnerships and development, and the other will be around our ongoing work or continuous work on the new next 5-year strategic plan. Angela King-Smith, Chief Engagement Officer, will provide the first presentation, and then Rachel Sprecher will follow as Executive Director of Partners and Development to give an update on our many partnerships. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you, Dr. Karstafen.
Thank you.
And our board chair and members of our Board of Education, we are excited to present regarding the different activities within the Division of Engagement today. The first presentation is on family engagement. The second presentation will be on our partnerships team. And then finally, I'll provide an update. So our presentation agenda is as follows. We will plan to provide an overview of the work of our Family Engagement Office and to provide an update from last year. We'll review the family engagement strategy as well as provide status on several different activities that are happening with this team. And here you see our family engagement strategy was created in response to the community's request for authentic commitment to engage our students and their families. Family engagement was also occurring in many pockets across the district and varied at various levels of success. And so this strategy was highlighted at a board meeting a couple years ago, and outline is kind of the actual strategy that was created. And here is the theory of action. If we identify key parent, caregivers, and alumni drivers, we will successfully implement the other components of the district strategic plan, and then we will provide support to our parents and caregivers and families to connect them to schools and engage them in their child's learning. Parents will show up prepared to learn, families and communities trust the system, alumni connect and engage in meaningful ways, and the academic program is implemented with fidelity so that our APS students have choice-filled lives. What we've learned over the past couple of years is that family engagement is an integral part of our district's school improvement strategy. National frameworks suggest that family engagement really makes a difference in the lives of students. Students whose families are engaged exhibit faster rates of literacy acquisition, earn higher grades and test scores, adapt better to school and attend more regularly, and graduate and go on to higher education. Highlighted here are the slides from the original presentation, which highlights the different parts of the strategy around adopting a board policy, convening alumni leadership, empowering our GO teams, launching our technologies, resources, committing to communications, creating feedback loops, establishing a dedicated leader to focus on this work, providing schools with choice around programming and engagement initiatives, and then providing professional development. So our work this is an update from what was presented last school year, and through a number of different foundations that we've been working with, including the Flamboyant Foundation out of Washington, D.C., our team has outlined the following mission, vision, and values, really focused around family engagement, and they cascaded this mission and vision and values from the district's strategic plan. Outlined here, you'll see kind of an update regarding adopting the board policy, defining standards, and accountability. And we've had lots of discussions around adopting a regulation around family engagement. And one thing that we are paying close attention to is that we are a charter system, and to mandate what kind of family engagement model seems counter to our charter system model. And so what we're looking to do is to create a regulation that outlines the family engagement choices for our schools. And we've been implementing those family engagement choices for several years now, and I'm going to highlight for you what those choices are a little later on in the presentation. We have also provided a toolkit that also provides support around these options. And then we are working with the Board of Education Administrator to reconvene the Alumni Council. The next meeting is scheduled for September the 17th from 6 to 7 p.m. and communication is out for that. Highlighted here, another tool that we've outlined working closely with our foundations and our district teams, that our focus of our work needs to be around communication, collaboration, capacity building, as well as continuous learning. And outlined, you can see both the mission, priorities, and goals, as well as our desired outcome. Highlighted here, you can see we've done a lot of work in collaboration with the district governance team led by Carolyn Barnett. Our family engagement team works with this, our GO teams, to create different committees as well as providing support. Our yearly GO Team Summit will be happening at the end of September. And we've also been working closely with those teams if they choose to have a family engagement focus as a part of the school strategic plan, and implementing a committee in terms of focusing on that as the GO teams. On item number 4, we've launched the district platform Let's Talk as one of the technology tools to really engage our stakeholders and to provide a resource for parents in terms of how they can connect with the district. Also, our APS mobile app is available for parents as well, and there are a number of resources on that tool. Parents and our parent liaisons have been trained on the tool so that they can inform parents of the online platform capabilities, and it was also showcased at the Back to School Bash. Item number 5, we have revisited the website, and you'll see in a moment a slide that kind of showcases that website so that it can be a one-stop shop for families when they're looking for information. And so you'll see that in just a moment. We've also been working with a number of our family engagement teams. There's not just one family engagement team, but there are several teams in the district to create and work together on our family engagement strategy. That includes world languages, Title I, CTAE, early learning, SEL, special education, Target 2021, as well as our teaching and learning teams and our GO teams. So our family engagement team has been bringing all of those folks together to have conversations and to implement strategies to support our families. Item number 4 is the revamped micro website for family engagement, and here it is highlighted here on this screen. It's on our main APS page. It also highlights our school-based choice models, additional support, parents as partners academic center, as well as resources that are available. We are also working on a calendar on this website so that a lot of the events will be publicized on that, and that's in progress as we speak. And so another important part is that we've been working to provide avenues of feedback from both internal and external stakeholders, holding focus groups and conversations with families. And so here we are also providing support through different kits. We worked closely with Partnerships and Development this summer to deliver summer literacy kits created by Hands on Atlanta, collaborating with our federal programs, with our brand new principals to provide support to them as they're implementing their family engagement strategy in their schools, and then providing consultation, coaching, and training as it relates to the various school-based models that are available for principals. And then in Area 7, we have been working closely with teams, and we're going to this year have a parent and family engagement conference which will be district-wide, which will be held on November 16th at Therrell. And some of the topics will include first-time homebuyer, fatherhood, single-parent coalition, healthy choices, working with our grandparents, and providing support. And so the other thing that we've been working very closely on is a toolkit of resources, and working closely with schools as they're implementing programs such as the program at Hutchinson Elementary School, and working in collaboration with Fulton County Oak Hill Adolescent Center with their food bank program as well as other programming. And then on item 8 are the choices that are provided to schools. And so they can implement one of 3 different models. One, they can implement what's called academic parent-teacher teams, And this is training around how to provide support to parents and teachers around understanding their school data. And there are a number of programs that are just really amazing. Beecher, Usher Collier, Hollis, and their student-led conferences. The other types of programs may include removing barriers, and Garden Hills is an excellent example of where they actually go into the community and provide support to their families. And then finally, the third option is a school design program, and this is where you basically design it based off of the needs of the school. And so Sutton is another great example where they're doing transition programming as well as bilingual support and community outreach. And so those are the choices that our schools get to make in terms of the type of family engagement program that they would like to implement. This is the details of the actual toolkit that I referenced earlier. And so we use the toolkit to help work closely with schools around creating their family engagement vision, around their goals, as well as the various strategies they plan to implement. And then on slide 9 is a variety of different professional learnings that we provide to schools, as well as both school-based staff as well as external staff. And so here you'll see both our Parent Leadership Academy. We've done a number of these academies in previous years, but this year we're doing one in the Mays cluster and then one in the Washington cluster in spring of 2020. Our parents, our PAPIC Center, we have a fall open house and resource fair that will be happening on October the 3rd, 2019. And then there's a host of other different resources that are available to schools through our PAPIC Center. And then finally, we're providing internal training to our internal staff around a number of different issues, whether it's cultural differences, Let's Talk, our mobile app, parent, teacher, home visiting programs, as well as community engagement. And then finally, the other stream of our work has been working closely with a number of different agencies, whether it's the Flamboyant Foundation, whether it's with the state of Georgia, or whether it's with major institutions like the Institute for Educational Leadership, where we're looking at best practices across the country. And then highlighted here is the dashboard, which really is a tool that we've been piloting in the Mays and the Jackson cluster. We're also using it as a resource for principals in terms of really what are the areas of improvement for family engagement, and it's also a tool to support focus groups and open conversation and dialogue. And so there's a number of different next steps, but I would say that the biggest one is that we're continuing to implement this strategy. We're always learning in terms of what's working, what's not working, and trying to improve it. And so on the next few slides, you can see a number of different next steps in terms of our work. But at this point, I will take your questions.
Thank you so much, Angela. Questions from the board? Cynthia?
I've got several quick questions.
Sure.
So I'll do the best I can to keep them quick. First, on the website, the new parent engagement website, I noticed, and I haven't had a chance because I was listening to your presentation, to go to it and look at it. Do you know what languages we are translating that into? There's a button over there that says Translate Site, and I'm just curious.
I know that our primary language that it can be translated to is in Spanish, and all the documents, because that's another limitation with our current website, all the documents have also been posted in English and Spanish.
Okay. Do we have plans to expand that? Because there are certain sections of the website where you can get it translated into other languages as well.
Yes, I believe so. We've been working with the developer on this website, and I know that similar to some other technologies, it allows for multiple languages beyond just Spanish. And so I know that they're working on the actual website, on this part of the website, yes.
Okay. On the calendar, are we contemplating including individual cluster or school events as well as system-wide
District-wide.
events, to really make it a master calendar. That's been tried at various levels
And it's
over the
really hard to
years. It's
do.
very hard, but it is so important to do that.
At this point, what we're focused on is the district-related events, but there are things that are cluster-based, and those we're trying to pull in, and we're working closely with our parent liaisons on what those cluster-wide events that touch and support our families, what those events are, so that we can include them on the website.
That might be a good thing to get the CAT teams involved in, the cluster teams. That might be a really good source of collecting information at the cluster level, also the cluster organizations, to get them to collect that and then have some process for feeding it to whoever's maintaining that calendar. The choice where we let schools choose which way they want to go, I think that was slide 21. I just want to shout out to y'all about that. I am hearing really great feedback on that. Schools feel very empowered and really feel like they are being supported in their flexibility and autonomy and being able to do that. And so I am hearing great feedback about that, so thank you very much.
Great.
I just want to
That's
pass
great.
on that, pass on that glow. And finally, around professional development, and this was towards the end somewhere, what are we doing specifically around support staff, school secretaries who are, after all, often the first person that many parents encounter, and other support staff? We talked about teachers, we talked about principals, we talked about Go teams. How are we specifically involving our support staff in proactively engaging parents and making them feel welcome in the building, and whether or not, no matter what kind of attitude they come in with?
So the first thing I would say, last year we spent quite a bit of time on our Warm and Welcoming initiative, which takes into account that first impression when you come in the building, that for our front office staff. And so they went through that training as well as customer service training. The first round of customer service training, they were engaged in that. And then several of our front office staff also participated in our cultural kind of awareness, cultural dexterity training. We piloted that and got lots of positive feedback. Not everybody went through that, but we had a number of representatives from across the district. And that's something that we are looking at, how to really maximize that training and provide support for that as well across the district. And we also had a nice reminder about that as well at the beginning of the school year with Let's Talk around kind of how do you support when people are coming in the building and providing good customer service.
I would just encourage us to make sure that every one of the front office staff gets some training and gets some support in that, so that we can make sure that the very first encounter that a parent has when they walk in one of our buildings is positive and encourages them to engage further.
Thank you.
That's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Leslie?
Just thank you. I know that y'all have been working very hard over a number of years to try and get this to where it's really helping our families. I really appreciate it. Can you tell me, just off the top of your head, what percentage of done the website is?
What percent, how far along it is?
Yeah.
I would say probably 60%.
Okay.
I think we've got about probably 40% more to go in terms of documents that we want to have uploaded. The calendar is something we're really striving to work on.
Right.
And so I think it's going to be probably till the end of the semester before we fully get it to where we want it.
And those, I know that at one point there were cluster-specific resources for parents that were like homeless and all that kind of, those will all be resident here. And will the calendars be integrated? So I know that we've Everybody has their own standalone, okay.
Yes. So
Wishful thinking.
I know, me too. What we're hoping to do, though, is to pull those major dates and put it at least into one place.
Yeah.
We're starting with the district-related things that all those family engagement teams, Title I and world languages, we're trying to put their major district family engagement things in one place. And then our next tier is to at the cluster level. And so we've worked with parent liaisons across the district and asked them about the different cluster level programming that they're doing for their families so we can pull that into the calendar.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Michelle?
I just want to quickly kind of piggyback on this calendar discussion. Perhaps, I'm not a web developer or into IT, but perhaps you can select off, once you have the main district calendar, you could go off to the right, kind of like you do in Google, and select another calendar to integrate into your own. For example, I'm down to 2 schools now, but when I was a 3-school parent, I just went and imported those calendars into my Google Calendar. So I had my family calendar, I had Michelle's calendar, elementary, middle, and high, and I could get a high look at what I needed to do every day. So maybe there's that option there to consider, maybe not by the end of first semester, but to go and dig and see if something couldn't be done along those lines.
Thank you.
Quick question. Are you aware of any programs that encourage fathers/men related to students to come to school and show up and interact and be present?
Yes. I know that Emily Holland, who's one of our staff members, works closely with our fathers. She actually leads a number of different programs that support our teams, where she's working closely with fathers to really support their students and to provide support as that father figure.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Thank you. And then last shout out to you and your team for great sessions so far.
Thank you.
On the strategic planning. They're well attended and a lot of energy in the room about the next 5 years. So thank you for all that y'all are doing there. And I think they're here, or a few of your team members are here. So
Yes, I want to give a shout out to our family engagement team, who are they are a small but mighty team, and they've been doing amazing work. And in terms of supporting our strategic planning efforts, they made sure that one of our barriers is not there. So they made sure that we had daycare, and they made sure that we had food there so that parents can come to those strategic planning meetings and be fully engaged in the conversation and the dialogue. So I just want to thank them. So can I have the family engagement team to stand up? Keisha Copeland, Courtney Garman, and Emily Holland. Yes, we want to thank them for all of their work related to family engagement.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Angela. At this time, Rachel Sprecher, Executive Director for Partnerships and Development, will report on our efforts as well as a little bit of a 5-year retrospect on all that she's inherited from Katie McDowell to lead us to where we are today, which is an extraordinarily exciting place to restore connections and trust and with our external stakeholders. We have more than 350 partnerships, about $72 million has been raised, and you're still going. So welcome, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Superintendent Karstarfin, Chairman Estevez, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you the 2019 Office of Partnerships and Development update. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of our office's work and updates from the last year. And we will accomplish that by providing an overview of our new partnerships process, a fundraising update, some impact from 2019, an Atlanta Partners for Education update, and the vision for 2020. And the administration's takeaway is that our office continues to provide critical support where gaps exist for important district and school priorities. So as you know, this office is relatively new. I think I can still say new after 5 years. But the Office of Partnerships and Development was established by Dr. Karstarfin and her administration, of course, in 2014 to really be the entity between external partners and their district prior to her coming, there really was no partnerships office. We, of course, had partnerships in the district, but there was no singular entity in charge where that was our sole focus. So we are proud that we're the entity to interface with anyone external and serving as the liaison between partners and APS. We also have a second charge, of course, which is to fundraise and source external resources for unfunded strategic priorities. Our main functions are listed here, including strengthening existing relationships with partners, creating the partnership process and operationalizing partnerships, fundraising, of course, to offset costs or for supporting district and school initiatives where our general funds fall short, vetting and engaging new stakeholders and supporters, and cultivating and stewarding external support through our top-notch customer service and what I call hyper-responsiveness, which I'm very proud of. So we're a really lean team as well. We only have 4, including myself. We also have a partnership manager, Upenda Dubose, and our development coordinator, Joy Hunter. They're both here. I'd love for them to stand and be recognized. Thank you. Really lucky to have them on board, and we are supported by an administrative assistant. So one of our most important functions in the district is one that we've really worked hard on to strengthen this year, and that's our partnership engagement process. So our office provides the pathway for any partner who seeks to engage with the district, and this is an important distinction, but we define partner as any entity that provides a service to the district in kind at no cost. So a lot of times people will use the semantics, we want to partner with you, but they really are a vendor. So if you can imagine any entity or individual or organization that's at no cost to the district, that is what would be covered through our office. So most of our partners under this definition turn out to be nonprofit and community organizations. And in the past year, we've been a little bit more selective about the partners we endorse and determine that are aligned with our philosophy for kids. We've launched a pretty robust partnership intake process, which includes completing an interest form, holding vetting meetings, making matches with schools and departments, and then providing technical assistance to both the partner and our schools or our internal clients. So our office also manages the formalization of partnerships through MOUs, partnership agreements, and evaluation, and we receive pretty good feedback from partners in schools about this process and our customer service and ability to troubleshoot any issues. So we're really generalists in the district. We know a little bit about everything, which is really great. We'll go from meetings about STEM to meetings about early learning to meetings about college readiness. So we know enough, but of course we are the navigators and connectors to the subject matter experts who then decide if this is a partner we really want to work with. For the development side of our office, we're proud that we've helped to bring in over $72 million in resources and support since our inception to support or offset district costs. This chart details revenue from the last 2 years, 2 fiscal years by categories. So you can see that the grants represent funding secured from grants, and these are grants either from federal, state, or local government funding, also from foundations and corporations. I want to note that not all of these grants were directly awarded to APS as the lead or fiscal agent, but they all benefit APS, and our office's support was needed ultimately to win the grants, so we count that in our total. The donations represent any cash that has not been through grants, so generously donated through APS, not through a grant, but through a cash donation through to APS or the Atlanta Partners for Education, which is our 501c3 arm. And the in-kind column reflects donated materials, supplies, goods, products, services, and other things that are tangible that we put a sign of value to and count in donations towards the school and the schools and the district. These totals, I just want to note, represent all of the support to the district and schools as reported to our office. So we try to track and report as much as we can, but of course, some other support does exist, and we really empower our schools to do their own fundraising as well. So quickly highlighting for you some of the impact we're proud of in the last year. A few of note, 5,000 students received a backpack filled with school supplies at the BASH, and this is thanks to our joint fundraising and partnership with the Empty Stocking Fund. We had 3,672 APS teachers get a gift for Teacher Appreciation Week, and that was thanks to the inaugural APS Rocks and Runs 5K, which will be a continual revenue-generating stream for Teacher Appreciation Week every year. 1,500 teachers got a teacher supply kit from the Kids in Need Foundation. 1,722 students received eye screenings, and 1,405 received eyewear through Vision to Learn this year. We got 40,000 books distributed to APS Title I elementary schools through Passion City Church. And then this was too hard to quantify, but we do everything. We facilitate and steward everything from winter coats, school supplies, Halloween costumes, snack and food packs, internships, event tickets, uniforms, shoes, clothing, school beautification, incentives, scholarships, camp experiences, digital devices, instruments, books, holiday gifts, mentors, tutors, hygiene packs, athlete visits, wraparound services, and much, much more. Yeah. So you can understand how much we coordinate free admission to the Georgia Aquarium, but also really large funding for large district levers for transformation. So it's everything from the little movie tickets to like big grants for student success funding, but we love it. So some big grants this year included $250,000 from Fulton County government, from Student Support Services, a $300,000 grant for STEM support for the Washington cluster from the Blank Family Foundation in partnership with Seismic. And we're also moving into some pretty innovative partnerships. You might have heard about one with the Trust for Public Land to open up schoolyards to the public in exchange for schoolyard enhancements. And then one with SunTrust and Operation Hope to provide financial counseling to APS employees, families, and students. So we're getting into the space of not just treasure, but also time and talent too, which I think is very exciting. Quickly, I'll highlight the partnership with the Atlanta Partners for Education, which is our 501c3 nonprofit that kind of serves as the APS Foundation. So through the APFE, we fundraise for signature events and the programs that are listed on your slide. So these events are solely put on using philanthropic and sponsorship dollars and not general funds. So without generous sponsorships and the work we do, we likely would not be able to put on these events that spread a lot of goodwill in the community. We also raise funds for the Whole Child Fund, which was inspired by Dr. Karstarfin and her passion to educate the whole child. So this fund provides our students with opportunities and exposures that they might not otherwise have, like to attend camp or field trips or provide immediate assistance like uniforms and MARTA cards. The funds that we raise at APFE are overseen by a board that serves as our thought partners and includes representatives listed in the appendix, and Vice Chair Collins is our board appointee. And lastly, for the next fiscal year, we have the following objectives. Continue resource development aligned with the strategic plan and the priorities listed. These are directed from our schools and also some senior leadership. Continue to build the Whole Child Fund at the Atlanta Partners for Education for more unrestricted dollars that we can use for important school and district needs. Attract and tell the APS story to more national funders and continue to engage the corporate community. Provide first-class customer service to our schools and our partners. Build the capacity of schools and CLL departments for partnerships and fundraising under the context of the charter system operating model. And continue to develop systems and processes that enhance partnerships. The appendix details the APFE board members that I mentioned and also a sample list of partners that have engaged with us. And it's not exhaustive, so we apologize for any organizations not included. And this concludes the update of the Office of Partnerships and Development, and I'm happy to take your questions and comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate you. Questions from the board? So, Leslie, Cynthia, Ishay.
Thank you very much. I'm looking on the website, and I love the form that you have. It looks very easy, and that is for schools to request help with things, which makes it very easy to them. Thank you very much for everything that's happening to make things easier to access. And I haven't looked around on the site a lot. You're also developing a new site as well? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We really beefed up our site this year to make it more of like a toolkit.
Yeah.
For all of our stakeholders, our
great.
school personnel and our partners.
Yeah, it looks really great. Can I ask if there is a couple of things? Is there going to be a comprehensive list of partnerships that are out there, or is the MOUs like boilerplate partnership agreements, are those sort of things on there?
Great questions. Yes. The to your first, I'll start with your second one. The MOUs templates, that's all up there already.
Okay.
So you can see the MOU template. You can see a lot of like sample letters, partnership agreements, things like that.
Awesome.
The recommended list of partners, or the formal list of partners, we currently keep in our CRM. It's called Little Greenlight. So it is not posted on the website. We're able to post it on the website or share it with everyone. We're pretty transparent about our partner list. What I want to move toward is more of an endorsed partners, like all the partners who have completed the MOU process, who are like kind of formalized, who have proven track records of success. Maybe they get posted on the website with like a little apple next to them, like signifying they're like a formal partner. But we can certainly, in the meantime, before we get to that endorsed partnership, post the current partners. We also, we track them for schools too, so as much as we know.
Okay. And the other part that I wanted to inquire about was, I know that this is always an issue and you're never going to get a straight answer from most folks about it, but in terms of, I call it X and Y money. X money is all the money we get that we are able to distribute, which includes the additional monies you get from your fundraising. The other money, the Y money, is the money that communities raise themselves, that never PTAs, foundations, or whatnot. Is there any way to get some rough understanding of that, so that when we look back at equitable fundraising, that we're not raising money for the school that can raise $100,000 themselves? I guess, what is your math on figuring out those kind of balancing that in terms of equity?
Sure. Couple different approaches. One is that we do have a threshold amount that anything above $10,000 we should be notified. we recommend being notified, and I think actually that is a financial, I'm like waving to Lisa, a financial stipulation that anything over $10,000 should come to the CLL and be managed that way. So we're pretty good at enforcing that and knowing about that if it comes from the school. Anything below that, we do have a harder time tracking. We do ask, our partnership manager's main job is school-based partnerships, so developing relationships with principals and asking them to let us know so we can inform the way that we distribute funding and partnerships is our first strategy. We also have kind of like a tiered categorization method where like tier 1 is probably like a Hollis Innovation Academy. They have a lot of support. They're in tier 1. They don't really need us, or they have their own partnership manager. Tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, trying to move like the 4s to 3s, the 3s to 2s, building capacity that way. But we're doing more in the way of surveys to sort of get a pulse on what's happening in the schools. We do monitor Twitter a lot to get some of that feedback, but certainly we could do a better job of trying to get those exact numbers.
I think it's probably a losing proposition, but I appreciate the thought process. I appreciate the work that all of y'all are doing to really try and get a larger understanding, so that when we have things, we can put them where they need to be, not where they're squeaked to be.
Great feedback. Thank you.
Cynthia?
Yeah, just one question, and I don't want to raise any alarms unnecessarily or anything, but going back to slide 5, which is the one about the amount raised over the past 2 fiscal years, I note that the amounts across the board in all categories for FY19 were anywhere from a third to a half less, roughly. Understanding math is not my strong point, but just looking at them. Overall, it looks like it's about a 1/3 drop, and I just want to make sure that there is no cause for concern there, and ask whether you have any projections at this point for fiscal year 2020, and also how we as a board can help to get those numbers back up and even beyond where they were in 18.
Great, thank you. So the first thing I'll say, the caveat, is the little asterisk that some of our grants and current asks out right now are pending, and we wouldn't count anything until it's secured. So for example, we have a $1.7 million commitment out right now that's been committed, but the money's not in hand yet, so we haven't counted it yet. So I would say that we're tracking to be consistent with our previous years. I don't attribute any of the decreases to anything significant other than we are partnering more with different partner organizations to have them lead grants and fundraising. We're encouraging some of our partners to fund our partners instead of us because that seems to be more synergy. So there's different kind of an algorithm and different reasons why it's dropped off, but I don't think it's any cause of concern. We're also putting more of we're just being a little bit more strategic, I think, about the things that we go after externally, things that we maybe use district funds for that don't need external funds to be sustainable. And in terms of the board support, I think you could, of course, just, continue to advocate for investing in Atlanta Public Schools.
Well, I know several of us, myself included, have referred potential partners to your office, and let me say what I hear from that is overwhelmingly positive and affirming, and that it is a very easy experience. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
That's all.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't have any questions serving on the APFE board, but it's just want to thank you guys for all your hard work and learning more about the Office of Partnerships and Development and just kind of restructuring the way things were versus when we all first joined the board. Just want to really thank you guys and acknowledge your hard work with a small team, small but mighty. So just wanted to say that. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I think this is the first time I've presented on 2 different topics, but I'm excited about both of the topics. I have the monthly update regarding our strategic planning process for our new strategic plan slated for 2020-2025. Outlined, you will see both a review of the strategic planning process, our needs assessment. I want to talk about the progress in that needs assessment phase, as well as an update regarding our community conversations with the clusters that we've had to date. Our goal is that we really want to provide information to you and to the community around our process, as well as the types of information that we're gathering from parents, students, employees, and community members. The foundation of our conversations with the community is rooted back in our 2015-2020 strategic plan, the mission, the vision, and the guiding principles, as well as the core values, and we're sharing this as a part of our conversation with the community. We're also sharing with the community kind of our current stats. For many of the families that have joined us in our community conversations, there are new faces and families that are engaging in the dialogue and the conversation regarding our strategic plan. So we're sharing both our stats as well as the status of the 2015-2020 strategic plan in the 4 bucket areas, sharing stats and information regarding academics, talent management, systems and resources, as well as culture. We also talked to the community around some of the things that are shaping or have been shaping our strategic plan and our strategy over the course of the past few years, from our cluster plans to the implementation of our GO teams, the work of the APS turnaround strategy, the adoption of our core values to guide how we operate, as well as the work to support our Target 2021 initiative for students potentially impacted by test manipulation. The other thing that we share with them is the work that our schools and academics team that they have been doing regarding leadership excellence and teaching excellence, and how we're defining and calibrating what that looks like for our school-based staff. And then finally, in 2019, the board approved an equity policy, a profile of a graduate, and the vision of excellence. And so we're sharing that with the community so that they have a foundation of all the work that's happened, or a little bit of the work that's happened from 2015 to date. Outlined here is the draft timeline, where April through August we are doing assessment, and that will spill over a little bit into September. August and September, we're looking at developing, and that's some of the conversation that we're having now, as well as what we were talking about in August. And then October, November, we will hopefully have a draft plan. November, December, we'll look at measurement. And then beginning sometime in January or the beginning of next semester, we'll have something that we will look to monitor and refine and implement. Each month, I'll be coming before you to give you a highlight in terms of the work, in terms of where we are, in terms of the progress we're making. So highlighted the assessment phase. I'm just going to go a little bit deeper in terms of what we're learning and the work around the assessment phase. The assessment phase includes a couple of things. One, we're looking at how we've been doing, the progress on our strategic initiatives. We're asking the community points of strength as well as opportunities for improvement. In the strategic planning world, we call that a SWOT analysis. We are also looking at our current state. Where are we right now? And we're using that information to kind of understand where we are right now to where we need to be in the future. Our assessment phase, we have been engaging communities in a conversation around those major points. At our Thero cluster meeting, we had approximately 90 attendees. At our Carver cluster, we had approximately 75 attendees. In our Jackson cluster, we had approximately 105 attendees. In our North Atlanta cluster, we had approximately 120 attendees. To date, on the survey, I know highlighted here, it shows that we have 748 online survey responses, but as of this morning, we have nearly 900 responses on that survey. So we want to keep encouraging parents to participate. Most of the people who are turning in that survey are, in fact, parents. Our Back to School Bash responses, we had a booth where we were asking both parents and students questions that we're using as a part of the input and assessment phase. And we had about 60% parents participate and 40% of our students participated. And we're looking at the data to analyze the themes. I do recall as we were looking through the data, a lot of those responses were the same, whether it was coming from a parent or from a student. So I think there was lots of synergy there. We've been working with the schools and academics team. They are been looking at, and the school principals with their leadership teams have been looking at their school improvement plans. And that information includes both root cause analysis around those major goal areas. And so we're looking at that to look at root causes and identify themes by cluster and overall. And then we're also looking at both national studies or national, city, and district quantitative data to help also identify strengths and opportunities as a part of our SWOT analysis. And so in our community conversations, we ask the community some questions that are rooted in our vision. And so we use the vision that's posted and the one that's from our 2015-2020 strategic plan around how we're doing as a school district. Our associate superintendents, as well as our principal teams, lead the community in a conversation about how things are going in their clusters, and they share data around their enrollment trends, milestone performance data, CCRPI, as well as really, I like to say, brag points around great things that are happening in their schools and their clusters, and they share that with the community. In terms of after they hear that information, as well as district level information, we ask parents around their points of strength, what they heard, or what they have experienced, because everything is not going to be in a data point that they might see on a slide. We actually want to understand what they experience when they come into the school building. And so we ask them both what are points of strength, as well as opportunities for improvement for both the school and the cluster. What we've heard so far, and this is just a sample, We've heard in terms of points of strength, positive feedback regarding our low principal turnover, our cross-cluster collaboration, teacher commitment, as well as community partnerships. Areas of opportunity for improvement include wraparound services, proficiency in all subjects, the achievement gap, especially with subgroups, and after school, they want more after school activities and enrichment opportunities across their schools. The other thing that we're learning is their barriers. What do they see as barriers or challenges that are preventing them from being stronger? And so some of the things that we've heard, one, parent involvement, community resources, communication, socioeconomic diversity, as well as competing priorities sometimes can be a barrier or a challenge. We also ask them how, if we're supposed to be reaching our vision, how can we do that? And so we ask them a series of questions to help us to understand how can we create a place where students love to learn and educators inspire, families engage, and the community trust the system. And so they participate in an activity where they give us responses. And so here's just a highlight of some of the examples of the feedback that we've gotten regarding what does success look like, as well as what APS's role is in creating an environment where students love to learn, educators inspire, families engage, and the community trust the system. And then finally, what we're asking is there additional information that would paint a clearer picture of your school's performance? And we hand out a packet of data that shows each of the school's performance areas, and that comes from our APS Insights website, all publicly available data and information. And so what we've heard is from a number of families and individuals, they have stated that the information currently provided was sufficient. However, they said that we might need to train and help parents to understand that information. And then some parents have said there are a few key pieces of information we would like to have that's not currently in the Insights report. So data such as parent, teacher and principal retention information, parent engagement, post-secondary performance, how do students do once they leave the walls of APS, school safety and mobility rate information. We have more community conversations coming up. Grady will happen on September the 5th, this week. So let everybody know to come out to Grady for that community conversation. Mays is scheduled for September the 10th at Young Middle School. Washington is scheduled for September 12th at Washington High School. Douglas Best CSK September 18th at Douglas High School, and South Atlanta on September the 24th. As I mentioned earlier, we have childcare available as well as a light snack so that families can participate and actively be involved in the conversation. Also, our Go Team Summit is coming up on September the 28th, and we're going to be working with our Go Team members and asking them questions regarding our strategic direction, as well as our cluster advisory teams as well. So we'll be collecting feedback from them regarding the strategic plan. And then we plan to engage with several committees, the ones that are listed here, as well as a few additional ones. We plan to engage our internal staff at Expanded Cabinet, which is coming up on September 19th, as well as there's a board retreat that's planned for September the 20th. And we'll take all of the information and put it together in a needs assessment report, which I'll be sharing at our October board work session. And then we're kind of taking note as to how we can engage even more parents in this conversation and in the process. And so what we're looking at doing is creating what I'm calling APS table talks. Similar to the dinner conversations that are happening around race and equity in our neighboring city of Decatur, we want to create opportunities where parents who normally don't come out to our community meetings, for them to engage in the conversation. And so we're looking at working with both our parent liaisons as well as Go Team members to host these table conversations. It could be at a dinner table, a library table, a conference table, a coffee shop, to provide a safe and open conversation about the things that are happening in their school. And so we're trying to do that. Maybe instead of on one night and just having the conversation on one day, maybe a week where these conversations happen across clusters. So we're looking at how can we get even more parents involved in the process. But this concludes my presentation. I was about to say conversation. This concludes the presentation. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Great, thanks. Questions from the board? Leslie?
Again, thank you very much for this one. Great idea. Is that your idea, the table talk? Awesome. You're welcome to take over coffee, community coffee anytime you want. And the needs assessment report, can you tell us what is that?
So that is going to, we're going to take all of the information and we're going to summarize that into one document. We've been collecting different pieces of that as we're having these community conversations. We're going to take all that together, and as well as the things from the school-based root cause analysis. We're going to put it all together and start to identify what may be the needs in the respective
the needs that are
cluster.
coming through, and okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That'll be my deliverable.
Awesome, thank you.
Anyone else? I also want to shout out the table talks idea. That's cool. With the surveys, are you able to drill down on where schools need or where we need more school participation? So can you see which schools don't have some threshold of participation, and then send extra support to try to get parents to participate?
Yes. What I would say is that we would like to have everybody pretty much across the southern region to really get out in terms of the online website. But we're going to also provide access through our parent liaisons for computer. We have computer labs and things that they can leverage those in those particular clusters. Yes.
Thank you. The last thing is, and I don't know how you do this, but some of the feedback I've always gotten, not just for strategic planning, but just generally our meetings are too complicated sometimes for parents. There's too much, lots of information, hard to understand. And again, I don't know what the solution for that is, but I'm wondering if there's like there could be like a one-page primer for parents to help them kind of understand what this process is about, why the strategic plan matters, or it can include other stuff. I don't know, but I was sitting at a table in the Jackson cluster where one of the parents was reading through fact, and she was like, I don't even understand what any of this means, but I just know this meeting is important. And she gave really good feedback on the needs and areas of improvement and where we're doing good or doing well. But that comment stuck with me because I had also heard that about other presentations that we do where parents, particularly those who are not used to the language we use in this room, look at these things and they're kind of like, can you tell me what's important and what's kind of icing on the cake? And again, no suggestions from me. I just wanted to point that out.
I think that's part of the reason why we structured the conversation that in terms of the way we structured these conversations in particular, because we heard that people really struggled. And so we wanted to kind of keep it simple and for them to be able just to say it in their own words, either what they're experiencing or what they think is an area we need to think about, or, a point of strength, something that's strong. We included, and we are revising, we've gotten some feedback. We couldn't do it right away, but we met with some community members and got some feedback, and that's the reason why we put that glossary of terms. We want to make sure that we perfect that. It's not where we want it to be, and we've gotten some of that feedback, and so in this next iteration, you'll see some changes in that based off of the conversation and the dialogue, because we do want to make it accessible for people to participate and for them to have what they need. But I like the idea of a primer, so that's a great idea.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Madam General Counsel, is there reason to go into executive session?
Mr. Chair, there is. The board needs to consider personnel and real estate matters.
All right. Can I get a motion to retreat into executive session to discuss personnel and real estate?
Second.
Been properly moved by Isha Collins, seconded by Cynthia Briscoe Brown. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now go into executive session. Good evening, everyone. It's great to have all of you with us after a great first few weeks of school. I want to thank the APS family for all of the hard work that has gone into making the start of this new year a great one. Before we move into the legislative portion of today's meeting, I want to make a few announcements and recognitions. First, I am pleased that in a school system as diverse as Atlanta Public Schools, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October 15th to recognize the contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans in the United States and celebrate that culture and heritage. To remind everyone why this recognition starts in the middle of the month, September 15th was chosen as a starting date because that is the anniversary of the independence of 5 Latin American countries: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, which all declared independence in 1821. And just to note other Independence Day celebrations during this month, Mexico celebrates on September 16th, Chile celebrates on September 18th, and Belize celebrates on September 21st. Programs and celebrations will go on throughout the district, and I am looking forward to seeing what our teachers and students develop over the next few weeks. Also, as some of you are aware, September is National Attendance Awareness Month. Attendance Awareness Month recognizes the connection between school attendance and academic achievement. This year marks the 7th annual nationwide campaign to increase awareness of chronic absenteeism by educating students, parents, and communities through information and activities. The district has made attendance an annual priority as shown in the annual bash and the day one activities. And we are pleased to join the national campaign with the hashtag School Matters to highlight different activities throughout the district to promote daily and on-time attendance. Further, I want to point out that National Suicide Prevention Awareness Week begins on September 8th. Across the district, we will begin addressing the stigma surrounding mental health and helping raise awareness for our parents and communities. Also, on October 5th, the National Alliance of Mental Illness will have its 15th annual 5K walk supporting mental health at Clark Atlanta University. Please join us as we support their efforts to raise awareness. I'd also like to announce that pursuant to board policy regarding the naming of new schools and buildings, I will now appoint 2 committees to develop recommendations for the naming of the new middle school in the Grady cluster, as well as possible new names for the Atlanta College and Career Academy currently under construction in the Parks building, which we may also rename. For the David T. Howard Building Committee, I would like to appoint Leslie Grant as chair, Michelle Olympiadis, Councilman Amir Faroki, Gloria Williams, Kevin Maxwell, Rebecca Rice, and Allison Amoroso. For the Parks Building Naming Committee, I would like to appoint Ishay Collins as chair, Councilwoman Joyce Shepard, MPU Vice Chair Stephanie Flowers, Johnny Floyd, Principal Tashara Wilson, Natalie Kaiser, and Jamar Jeffers. Finally, I would now like to ask the principals of the Washington High School cluster and every student, educator, staff, and alumni with the Booker T. Washington High School to come forward. Let's give them a round of applause. In recognition of the 95th anniversary of Booker T. Washington High School, the board will consider adoption of a resolution later this evening to honor this incredible milestone of a legacy school. I'd like to invite Vice Chair Ishay Collins to read from some of the resolution in recognition of Booker T. Washington High School.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In circa 1866 to 1867, the Freedmen's Bureau established the free public schools in Atlanta for children of freed slaves in the Storrows and Summerhill Grammar Schools. And on September 24th, in 1869, the first steps were taken towards the establishment of public schools for children in Atlanta by the adoption of the Atlanta City Council resolution, which stated in part that the success and perpetuity of free institutions depend on the virtue and intelligence of the people. And later by an act of legislature on September 30th, 1870, the establishment of public schools were approved insofar that in January 1872, Atlanta opened its doors of public education to all children. And 52 years later, Booker Taliaferro Washington High School opened its doors on September 24th, the first African-American public secondary school established in Atlanta. And the name of the school, as we all know, for Booker T. Washington, a Virginia native who had been born a slave and became one of the most influential black leaders and educators in the United States and in our society. The first principal of Booker T. Washington High School was Charles L. Harper, who built a firm educational foundation for the school by hiring dedicated teachers who were concerned about the welfare of the students. And the Washington Bulldogs have been instructed by generations of dedicated, tireless educators who exemplify excellence and achievement for Booker T. Washington students. And in its 95 years of existence, Washington High School has produced champion scholars, athletes in sports, including football, basketball, track, tennis, soccer, baseball, and has countless and counts in its legacy generations of notable individuals, including the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Ramay Power, Asa Yancey, Mabel Smith Lott, Lyndon Wade, and Lucille Palmer Perino. And 95 years into its legacy, Washington High School continues to live the mission of Atlanta Public Schools with a caring culture of trust and collaboration. Every student will graduate ready for college and career. And now, therefore, it be that the Atlanta Board of Education honors and recognizes the 95th anniversary of the opening of Booker T. Washington High School. Go Bulldogs. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Collins, for reading that. I'd like to now invite the board to go up to take a picture, and I also invite Erica Mitchell to make a special presentation as well.
So, yes, bring it over here. Bring it over here, as I can talk. Oh God. You know, just put it right here, and then we'll go over there and do it all together. Yeah, come on over. Stay right here. I'll bring it over. But I just wanted to say something about this, if everybody can kind of settle down. Okay. So I just wanted to make a quick comment about Booker T. Washington. You want to come down here too? Yeah. Okay. Last summer I had the privilege to go up in the attic and found my grandmother's old, I guess what they call it, portfolio book, scrapbook, yearbook. No, wasn't a yearbook. This is a scrapbook. It's memory book. Yeah, thank you. And I found her senior prom invitation. I found her graduation commencement invitation from May 31st, 1936. And it lists everyone who graduated in 1936. It was 400 students. And I have the pictures as well. I gave them to Pierre. He has them in archives. They're going to scan them in. But it was so interesting that she held on to that since 1936. And so when you think about Booker T. Washington and his legacy and how he and that school educated all of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, it means a lot that right now, 95 years to this day, is still here. And we would like to, I just say congratulations on the legacy and keeping the momentum going. And so I just put together a little frame, picture. I won't say little, but something I like to do. I like to play around with some graphics every now and then. But this is dedicated on behalf of the board to Booker T. Washington High School. And I would like to thank Davita Hutley for getting me the information so I can put everything together. And for you, Principal, I'm sorry, your last name? Young, and you can hang in your school at your discretion. So. Right, yeah. Okay.
All right. Congratulations again to all of the Washington Bulldogs on reaching this incredible milestone, and best wishes for a successful school year. I now invite Superintendent Karstarfin to make her own remarks.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of our community and all of our team. Thank you to everyone who came to the community meeting to share their comments tonight. I do appreciate all the love and care that people have for Atlanta Public Schools, which is as humbling as it is energizing and exciting. So thank you all for sharing with us your beliefs about the future of the district. I'd also like to wish everyone in the Washington cluster, again, a happy anniversary. I know that they are so energized that they're actually planning for the 100th anniversary as well. So I've been in some of those meetings, and I think that we have an incredible legacy there from our alumni, and the new leadership in the new school will make the 100th even greater. So before I got into my official remarks, I wanted to remind everyone about the first day of school. I know it feels like a lifetime ago, but it is imperative that we share about our effectiveness. And we have a whole readiness plan that really gets the district up and ready to go. And so while we had a school board meeting on the first day of school, it really didn't get to talk about the first day of school. So I really wanted to share with everyone the highlights of the big summary of how it all went. So for the 6th year in a row, we embarked on our Day One Be There campaign. That's all about day one attendance. And so it starts with the big back to school bash, of course, but the bottom line is that this year we reported an official head count of 44,857 students on that very first day, which is 2,440 more than last year. That's a 5% increase of attendance on the first day. Starting the school year later may have helped a little bit because when parents really get tired of the summertime, they do tend to send their kids to school right away. But for further comparison, I thought that it's important to say that that if you take 4 years ago and look at the first day of school, it was 41,682 kids. So compare that to 44,000, you get the picture. Like, we've really done a great job in getting kids to school. And of course, that all started off with the big back to school bash, which is loads of fun. We had about 9,500 people there in the Georgia World Congress Center. And elected officials did come to that as well. They were fantastic. Everyone from our city leadership, actually Congressman John Lewis was there as well, and many others, including our elected school board. And so it was an unprecedented amount of positive media coverage. We had double the amount of outreach and sharing of information that was all about getting ready for school, and it was incredibly positive. So that is a big lift for the district as well. For talent management, Sky Duckett and her team from Human Resources brought the thunder. And I think she sent me, she was like, get the number right. You better get the number right. And it is 7 vacancies, which means she exceeded her target to be under 10, or 10, but congratulations, you exceeded expectations. And our classrooms, unlike other districts, were absolutely filled. So please give her a big round of applause, because this is all them hustling all year long. And while, operations has their hands full on the first day of school just with general stuff, the construction and renovations were absolutely gorgeous. Our COO, Larry Hoskins, leads that work, and if you went to Gideon's like I did, you will cry when you walk in the door. It's such a beautiful renovation. Hollis Innovation Academy doesn't even look the same. Beverly Tatum is out in the audience tonight, part of the Westside Future Fund, and I remember being in California on a totally different time zone, answering the phone at 2 a.m, and it was her. And she said, you can't, oh my gosh, please keep the kids in the school so we don't lose the kids. We can keep focusing and educating them when y'all do the renovation. Can we please think about how to keep everybody there? And so it was that kind of engagement at 2 a.m. on East Side West Coast time that I called Larry Hoskins as soon as I hung up the phone. So he answered, and I said, can you please go back and think about how we might be able to get those beautiful windows and pods in while the kids stay there and we don't disrupt the community. And so Larry Larry and his team did an amazing job. Diamond Jack Diamond Ford, I'm sorry, yes. I love Diamond Jack as a name, though. It's so cool. But Diamond Ford did a great job, too, leading that, and so it is incredible. You must go see the new Hollis Innovation Academy. TAG took off with a super cool airport hangar design, equally as beautiful and just extraordinary with all kinds of mechanical things. The classrooms open up with big doors. I mean, it's just, I never went to school at anything like that, so it's just gorgeous as well. We did have a couple of, hiccups like power outages and some spot coolers, but the facilities crew, Alva and team, and Jerry and all of them, they did a great job getting around the district as fast as possible. Associate superintendents were totally on top of it, texting and sharing with people in real time so that our communications were great. They really did a great job of making sure everybody was ready to go. We reported, I went to the North Atlanta Strategic Planning Community Meeting, and the person who got the loudest, most excited standing ovation / clapping was John Franklin, the head of transportation, who was like, there were as many people yelling at me as there were people giving me hugs. So I think that was a good day for me. He's so humble and so sweet, but he had a 92% on-time bus arrival rate, and I thought that was extraordinary. You heard tonight from some of our labor groups. We had no significant issues with food deliveries, the staffing, the service related to our new food and nutrition contract, which was just outstanding. I've eaten enough cafeteria food to know good food from bad food for sure. But this year, the quality of the food, the organic food, I still have an issue with that turkey burger that has the bubbles on it. Don't like it. Think we need to rethink that one. But other than that, everything was absolutely fantastic. Teaching and learning was happening on the first day. Again, that's in large part due to the associate superintendents led by David Jernigan, the deputy superintendent, who was doing a ton of work to ensure that everyone had all their instructional needs and materials in place. We did a lot of changes with budget and finance. Lisa Bracken, our CFO, made sure that things like the textbooks issues and those sorts of things kind of went away because we put the resources in the hands of the principals so they can make those plans throughout the year with their GO teams. Angela King-Smith, who is over the work of engagement, makes sure that everyone is checking that information and using the resources that we have pushed into schools. I want to thank our data team. They were the ones who've been preparing behind the scenes all the information. Bill Karich, you are leading that effort to ensure that when we're out there doing those strategic planning meetings, that the data is accurate, it is high quality, and it is, although complicated, it is digestible or more digestible for the public. So I want to just thank everyone for stepping up and being on point. But it was a great start of the school year, and I look forward to others to come. During the work session, we had 3 presentations. Again, Angela King-Smith, Chief Engagement Officer, talked about our family engagement strategy that she is working to demonstrate our commitment to school leadership by working through our families, fostering more two-way communication, addressing the unique needs of our clusters. Rachel Sprecher, who is a rock star with our Partnerships and Development Office. Katie McDowell, I think I saw her here tonight. She launched that office, came highly recommended, and after she got it off the ground, I handed it over to Rachel, who's done a smashing job. As you heard some people say tonight, since November 2014, we've either established or reestablished more than 350 partners, raised over $72 million in private funding, and last year grant awards were up 10%, and apparently this year there are more grants coming in. Angela just didn't get enough of the night, and so she came back again with another presentation on the 2020-2025 strategic plan. Many of you have been out, board members and community members, to attend these meetings, and I just think they're doing a smashing job. Angela, is your team here tonight? Travis and all those folks? They had to go home. Well, imagine that. They are great. I just wanted to do a shout out for them because they are there, facilitating working really hard to make sure that all the supports are there for our families and our stakeholders while they're in that meeting. I know that y'all spend a lot of the summer doing this work as well, collecting early information from existing organizations and groups, and that gave us kind of a great start so that the school year around strategic planning could have a good pace and some aggressive work already vetted so that we could start the planning. The development stage or the next work to determine where we go over the next 5 years is critical. I did hear one public speaker talk about getting a report, if you will, on the 5 years, how all of that went before we do the formal transition into a new strategic plan. And I'll talk about that in a minute when I talk about the state of the district. So we will be doing that, and I think that's important for the public to hear. As I mentioned, we're so pleased and impressed with the engagement of our clusters thus far. We had attendance and great attendance in all of the clusters: Thurl, Carver, Jackson, North Atlanta, and then the next one is Grady on September 5th. From 6 to 8 p.m. So we just encourage people, even if it's not your cluster, but you're hanging around, doing a run around Piedmont Park or whatever, still come in and participate so that you can weigh in with us on what you think about the future of Atlanta Public Schools. So back to that, how did the last 5 years go? Every year, we kind of do an APS unique reporting to the public. It is called the State of the District. While, things may change, we are pretty certain that this year's is on Thursday, November 7th, in the newly renovated Harper Archer Elementary School in the Douglas cluster. So we invite everyone. We don't care who you are. If you're in Atlanta or you care about education, please come hear about the state of affairs in the district. We're still focused on our mission and vision. We want to make sure that every kid is ready for a college and career and that they have an opportunity for a choice-filled life. We'll talk about the journey of transformation. It'll be my sixth State of the District. We're asking this time, because every year it's a different style, and the kids will always shape and change it at the last minute. So we are really talking about really having people experience some of the transformation. So if you come to the State of the District, expect to get involved, and you will be able to actually help transform APS in the State of the District. So stew on that for the next month or so, and let your imaginations go wild, because it's going to be fabulous, as it always is, because it showcases our beautiful students. It'll talk about the grows and glows of APS and what it's like to get on this mission for readiness for our students. We'll also do a ribbon cutting that day, which is exciting. Harper Archer also had gorgeous renovations, and you need to come see them. Please keep an eye out on our homepage for more details. Mark your calendars for Thursday, November 7th, and we hope to see everyone there. So thank you so much for another great start of the school year. I want to say thank you to everybody out there on the front lines who came to work, who were ready to teach, and kids were ready to learn. And I just like to thank the board for your support and participation in all those events, because that also helps us get off to a great school year. So Mr. Estevez, members of the board, and members of the community, that concludes my remarks for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Starfin. Would you please present the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm pleased to submit consent agenda items 5.01 through 8.02 to the board for approval. I wanted to highlight a couple of things in the consent agenda which we're excited about. 7.12, can you scroll up a little bit, Herschel, or somebody who ever controls the screen? It's the 21st Century Community Learning Center grants. It's part of a state program. 3 of our schools are eligible for a 5-year renewable grant to support academic enrichment, tutoring, and literacy development. The nearly $1 million in grants this year would support Dobbs Elementary, Barack and Michelle Obama Academy, and Scott Elementary. I'll also note that Scott is in its 5th year of the grant program. I also wanted to shout out agenda item 8.01. It's under operations. We ask you to authorize the fiscal year 2020 capital outlay application for the Georgia Department of Ed. This is where, when we do this application, we can actually receive partial project funding when we file our local facilities plan and then submit this annual application. So it helps us get some of the bricks and mortar work done, which takes a little bit of pressure off of our SPLOST investment. Our projects that we are seeking to be eligible are Humphreys Elementary for about $1 million, Hutchinson Elementary for about $700,000, and Grady High School for $1.4 million. If this is approved and fully funded by the state legislator, that means the district is eligible for up to $3 million in capital outlay funding reimbursements from the Georgia Department of Ed based on the application. So all exciting stuff, and I submit to you those consent agenda items for board approval.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 5.01 through 8.02? Been properly moved by Isha Collins, seconded by Nancy Meister. Is there any discussion? Okay, please open the vote.
I can vote, if you're waiting for me, yay.
Madam General Counsel, is there need, well, we have not technically finished executive session yet.
Okay, will you reconvene after this
Yes.
legislative meeting? Okay.
Okay. And then on 10.01, the resolution recognizing the 95th anniversary of Booker T. Washington High School, is there a motion to waive first reading and approve agenda item 10.01, a resolution recognizing the 95th anniversary of Booker T. Washington High School?
Second.
Been properly moved by Leslie Grant, seconded by Cynthia Briscoe Brown. Open the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'll ask Vice Chair Isha Collins to report out from the community meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight, we heard from 24 speakers on various topics, starting with Congressman John Lewis and stressing the importance of education and the need for One Atlanta, but also expressing strong support for the renewal of the superintendent's contract. We also heard from various community members, parents, students, community partners, and the philanthropic community in support for the superintendent's contract renewal as well. There was messaging, or community members expressed expressed the need and also emphasized this restored trust in the board and transparency over the last decade, and the movement that has been happening to put APS children as a priority in the work that we're doing. We heard from a APS graduate and just encouraged stability in the classroom. We also heard congratulations on Booker T. Washington on their 95th year anniversary. In regards to the strategic conversations that have been happening, community members and parents expressed changes in the cluster conversations, showed appreciation for more parent and kid-friendly meetings, but the need to have the right amount of transparency and wanted more feedback from parents. The Atlanta Thrive Parent Group talked about a feedback meeting that will be taking place on October the 12th. The location and time is still in the making, but thank the board for listening to parents and providing childcare at these meetings. There was also stress of inequities amongst the data and to finish the strategy conversation, and including alignment with the potential of the superintendent's renewal. We also heard criticism on that side in regards of not supporting the superintendent's renewal as we continue to talk about equity in our schools and allocation of resources throughout the district. Union representatives from FPSC and AFSCME stressed the importance and the importance of the internship program. They stated also showing support for the superintendent's renewal contract, but also expressed appreciation about the details of the nutrition contract from the board chair and board leadership, but also the opportunity to share the collective bargaining agreement that is now in place. And with that, Mr. Chair, one last thing I definitely want to emphasize as well. We heard from community members and concerns with special education, but also stressing the importance of continuing to support the Douglas cluster and other clusters on the south side of the city, and with Douglas being a model for APS, but there's still concern of growth. And I will end with the Executive Director of Achieve Atlanta discussing and emphasizing the support for the superintendent contract, but also stating our continued commitment to college readiness and access, and to continue to double down on great outcomes for kids. And so, Mr. Chair and the board, this concludes tonight's community meeting.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Collins. We will now have the report out from from board meetings, or board committees, sorry. Let's start with budget.
No report out this month, sorry.
Thank you. Let's go to audit. Thank you. And then policy.
We approved 2 policies on the consent agenda for first read tonight. Our next meeting will be September the 19th at 8:30 in the morning.
Great. Board travel or report out from conferences. Okay. And I think we can go ahead and report out or state that, bless you, that there will be no report out or voting coming out of executive session. So we don't want to keep y'all around waiting. With that, I will not entertain a motion to adjourn yet. We'll come back out and do that after we complete executive session. So we will now recess into executive session. I think it's fair to say staff, Dr. Starfin, they can stick around, go home. Cool. Thank you all so much. And we will now adjourn, or now recess, take a recess, and reconvene in an executive session. Thank you.